Welcome to a lesson on articles. Let's go through a few exercises and see if we can understand how these guys work, because they are really tricky. They're not easy to teach at all, and they're not easy to use correctly all the time. So let's have a look at number one. Is it a, an, the, or no article? Yeah. Audience clapped and cheered. Well, audience is a countable noun, and I really want to emphasize that if you know whether a noun is countable or uncountable, it really helps you with articles. Now, if it's a countable noun, it must have an article before it, provided that it's singular, and this is a singular countable noun. So we know it's going to be an or the. It must be an, because we don't say a and then vowel sound, or audience. So it must be an audience or the audience. Now, if we say an audience, it sounds as though there are several audiences present. Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but it seems to me that in the theatre or in the cinema, there is always only one audience present per screen. Yeah. And for this reason, we say the audience clapped and cheered. If you say an audience clapped and cheered, it sounds like there are many audiences around, and that would be strange. I can't imagine a situation where I would need to say an audience clapped and cheered. It's that strange. So the audience clapped and cheered, because there's always only one audience present, and the speaker knows you mean that audience. Okay, number two. People say British are not very friendly, but I disagree. Okay, British is an adjective, but here it's being used as a collective noun, okay, and in the plural sense, which is why we have a plural verb, are, but it's being used to describe a group of people. And when we do this with an adjective, always it has a the in front of it. We say the French, the British, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Russians, and so we always put a the before any kind of adjective when we're making it into a group. And it doesn't have to be a nationality. You always say the rich, the poor, the unemployed, yeah, the poor, the meek, the humble. I can think of lots of examples where we have the plus adjective and it refers to a group of people. Yeah, the homeless. So bear that in mind, because it crops up quite a lot. Okay, number three. If we do not protect nature, our environment will get worse and worse. Now, what kind of noun do we have here? It's not an adjective like British, although I do agree this adjective is functioning as a noun in this sentence, by the way. The British is functioning as a noun. But here we have a typical noun, nature. But is it a countable noun or an uncountable noun? I want you to very often ask yourself this question, because if you know that nature is an uncountable noun, now it can be countable in a different sense, but if you know that nature, when referring to the processes of the universe that go on planet Earth, yeah, then it's an uncountable noun. A little bit like the way God is an uncountable noun. When we talk about it in a religious sense, God is usually uncountable. But the word God can be countable. When you talk about a God and a number of gods and goddesses, it's certainly countable. Now, when you talk about somebody's nature, it's certainly countable. You can say, that somebody has a certain nature, yeah, that somebody, and that means that they have a certain personality. Really, when you're talking about somebody's nature, you're talking about their personality, and then it can be countable. But when you're talking about, the plants, the forests, the trees, the oceans, the mountains, the hills, you're talking about nature, and you're talking about maybe the processes of weather and things like that, and all of the processes of life that go on, then you do mean uncountable nature. And that's why this word doesn't have an article. We're not being specific, we're not specifying what type of nature, we mean it in a general sense. And so if we do not protect nature, Now, I want to make this clear that if you change the word nature for something else like environment, the environment, you will need the definite article then. If we do not protect the environment, our lives will get worse and worse, something like that. That would certainly need an article, the environment, And notice that with the environment, well, environment certainly is countable. You can talk about different types of environment, and so it is a countable noun, the environment. Okay, so if we do not protect the environment, our environment, you might say, but the main difference between these two words is one is countable and one is uncountable.